Do your hair a favor by checking in online and arriving just in time for your Sport Clips MVP haircut experience while you surround yourself with sports on TV, fresh cut, massaging shampoo, and hot steam towel. Claim your spot today. SportClips.com/check-in.
Good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of Golic and Wingo. Glad you are here with us. We are on ESPN Radio and ESPN News for the moment as Roger Federer is on the court in the Australian Open, and when the coverage is over on ESPN2, we will bounce back over there on the TV side. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr., and we almost had a very awkward moment between the two of you.
Yeah, we did.
One of many that I'm sure will continue, but you guys almost wore the same thing today?
Yeah, Mike has this gray, like, hoodie, long sleeve, light pullover, and I have it as well, and I looked at it this morning, and I almost grabbed it. That would have been, we had the same car and color car, and we almost had the same shirt on today as well.
Yeah, it's pretty uncomfortable, and it lets you know that the same woman buys most of our clothes.
Pretty much. Okay. Very true.
Here's the question, though. What is the deal with the two of you having the exact same car and the exact same color? I don't quite understand that.
Here's the thing. The car people in our house are my wife, Mike's mother, and Jake.
My brother Jake.
They are the car people. We are not car people, so a lot of times, like the last few cars for me, they just decided, hey, we think, Dad, you'll like this car. And I said, okay, I don't care. And we kind of both got talked into it, did we not?
Well, we both got talked into it. It was different times for me. You know, the truck I had, good trade-in value, all this stuff. But we found cars that we liked.
We did like them, yes.
There weren't a lot of these cars available. It was difficult. Jake had to go down into his credit, track a lot of them down. And so we had them. We both liked them. And we decided, you know what? Who else is going to see us park together but the people right here this early in the morning? That's really the only setting. So, no offense, though? I don't really care enough about what any of you guys think to really be bothered by this. That's what it comes down to, except for Devin.
Have you ever guys walked into the wrong car?
No, because that's you keep clicking the unlock button and the lights light up. They're nice cars. These 4Runners, the TRD Pros, I believe they're called. And the color is cool. They're like cement color, which is, I like the color a lot.
They are uniquely colored.
They are.
Or lack of colored, I will certainly say that.
But Jake, and as I said, my wife, they love to look at the cars and build them up and hunt them down, and I'm just not as into them, but we like them. Man.
For a while, Jake actually had the same car that we did too, just in a different color. Thankfully, we got rid of that. 3 seems a bit much. Yeah, that's a bit heavy-handed for our taste.
But when I have to pull in here in the morning, and Mike's already doing the show, and the little spot where we kind of park, where the early people park, if there is ever a spot, sometimes it's right next to his. I'm just like, oh God, I got to pull right next to his car.
You guys are really interesting. And the other thing is how you said, well, I looked at that pullover that Junior's wearing, and I almost wore that one. Here's my routine when I get up to come in to do the show. I just throw something on the floor from the previous night and just pick it up and go.
Is that what you do?
The fact that you're taking that effort at that point in the morning is almost that's respectful.
You would have thought, and I don't know how you do it. A lot of people thought doing this for so many years I would pick out the stuff the night before, but I really don't. I just go into the closet and just kind of look and stand there. Sometimes I just stand there and get mesmerized for a few minutes and don't really make a decision.
That happens more often than not. People say, did you get dressed in the dark? Yeah, actually, most mornings. 100%. And really, I enjoy the opportunity to be over here with you guys every morning and to, be on TV, simulcast and everything. But it really screwed up a good thing I had going. Being on radio from 4 to 6 when there's no TV involved, you can imagine the level of dress went drastically downward because none of my bosses were ever around during that time.
Walker by here when he was just on radio before he was on here, and he'd be shirtless and stuff. It'd be pretty.
Well, no one's looking for that.
No.
But
a lot of cheese.
I can promise you as we go forward, I will care a lot less about what I'm wearing. Just so you know.
Well, no, I think you're already there.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're coming to the day where it's going to be flip-flop shorts and a hat.
That's exactly right.
Hey.
So the Dan Le Batard show.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, well, it won't be a Miami hat.
I promise you that. That is true.
He has exclusive rights on that one, and he wears it every day. All right, let's get going. What we normally do with.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
Well, Off the Top continues with the best team in the NBA. The Warriors earned their 14th straight road win with a 119-112 win over the Bulls Wednesday. That matched the longest road win streak in team history and the third longest single-season road win streak in NBA history.
Yeah, right now, so at 14, the Jazz in 94 had 15, and the Lakers in 71 had 16. So the next road game is against the Rockets on ABC. And then that will end the current 5-game road trip, and then they'll have to wait again until the end of January if they're going to get to this record, if they get by the Rockets. You know, so many stats about. Bottom line is they're really good. You know what? They're a really, really, really good
way to break
team.
it down.
Yeah, well, I'm here to analyze. How much can you analyze? I mean, you can sit here and read the stats. They swept a 6-game road trip earlier this season. They can sweep a 5-game road trip. No team has ever swept multiple road trips of 5 games or more. Blah, 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 blah. They're really, really, really good.
Well, and when you look at them in reference to the other top teams in the league, you know what the biggest difference is for them right now? They're really healthy. Like, we talk about that going into every season, what can derail a team, and usually with Golden State, it's aside from injury, there's really nothing, and we've seen in past years that come up. They're one of the few teams in their weight class that actually have all of their power players at full strength.
Guys
right
just being nicked a little with Durant missing a few with the calf and Curry with the ankle, but nothing that's been, to your point, sustainable, something we'll get into like with the Kawhi Leonard
situation. I guess, right now, I mean, you look at the stat sheet and all those guys were filling it up the other night, so they're good enough to go at this point where everyone else has some version of guys on minutes restrictions or coming back or out right now.
No, yeah, you're right. Clay had 37 minutes.
Him and Steph were both
Curry,
over 30.
35. Durant, 35. I mean, you know, here's the amazing thing, especially in the game last night. Durant, when he was on the floor, they were plus 21. When Pachulia was on the floor, plus 31. When Steph Curry was on the floor, plus 21.
They're good for your stats.
Exactly right. So it's not just that they're scoring, they're way outscoring the opposition when they're on the floor, which makes for them to have, a 14th straight road win.
Yes,
that's kind of how that gets put together.
Off the top.
Breachgate penalties have come down hard.
Oh, they
Houston's
have.
Trevor Ariza and Gerald Green have been suspended 2 games apiece by the NBA for breaching the Clippers locker room Monday. Chris Paul and James Harden will not face discipline or fines for their, air quotes, peaceful roles, the NBA
How about
said.
that? Peacemaker roles.
He was the one that got him the back way around,
so
right?
Now, as the story goes, it was, Ariza that was trying to get there, and those guys were trying to supposedly stop him. At least that's the story they seem to all be sticking to at this point because, 2 guys suspended. That's it. That's it. So Ariza's going to lose $51,000 per game, so over $100,000, and Green's going to lose $9,000, $9,500 per game, so a little over $19,000. But so nothing for Paul, nothing for Harden, and the Rockets are unhappy. None of the Clippers were suspended, especially a guy like Blake Griffin, who supposedly or allegedly elbowed Mike D'Antoni. So did he? Did he not? There's obviously no video of it.
Right.
We haven't seen any video of it, but they're mad because none of the Clippers were suspended. But it had Trevor Ariza supposedly called Austin Rivers. They talked for 30 minutes and hashed things out. A whole lot of talking and hashing things out for a whole lot of nothing, right? I mean, there was, what are you hashing out? I mean, everybody jawing at one another? Holy smokes.
Well, and most people will point to that and say that's really a suspendable offense at this point, but I guess you can't have guys trying to rush the other team's locker room, and that's what you're guarding against in this. Worth noting, and someone tweeted this at me this morning, and I didn't really think of it, because Chris Paul's getting a lot of credit. I saw Marcellus Wiley was on 710 the other day saying, he really gave away that trade secret of, that back entrance to the locker room from the Ritz and that easy way out that guys had. Trevor Ariza played for the Lakers for a couple of years. Everyone's saying Chris Paul was at the back of this party. Maybe Trevor Ariza's the one that knew that passage was there. Maybe Chris Paul didn't ruin this on his own, so I don't want to give him all the credit. I feel like Trevor Ariza has really situated himself as the star of this show.
To the story, obviously, or to the league, it was Paul and Harden that were, again, peacemakers in this, so maybe they were just trying to stop those guys, and maybe they really were, because God knows he interviewed a ton of people for a situation that never really elevated anywhere. But to your point, you can't have people go to the opponent's locker room and not have some discipline.
Breachgate.
Yeah.
By the way, maybe it's all J.J. Redick's fault. He tweeted out the other day, I feel like I need to do an emergency pod explaining the schematics of the Staples Center locker room. So maybe it was all J.J. Redick's fault. People like to blame him for stuff anyway.
This story does need to go away, though.
And it shall right now.
Off the top.
All-Star starters are announced tonight in the NBA for the All-Star game coming up next month. LeBron James, the leading vote-getter in the last release, outpacing Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, he's doing that right now. So it's the 4th time that LeBron has led in the All-Star voting. The only one to have more would be Michael Jordan, who led 9 times. LeBron James, leader in the fan voting. This year he's ahead of Steph Curry, or he finished ahead of Steph Curry, yes. In 2014, Kevin Durant. 2010, Kobe Bryant. 2007, Yao Ming. So looking to lead yet again. It would be his 14th straight All-Star game start. It would break a tie with Bob Cousy for the most consecutive. So he and LeBron and Cousy have 13. Tim Duncan has 12. Kobe Bryant, Julius Erving have 11. So at least LeBron is going to, and he's going to get to be one of the pickers of the schoolyard.
That's my question. So when they're doing this, if they're announcing the All-Star game starters, are you picking as the captain from then two pools? Are you picking from, all right, here's starters the pool of starters and then here's the pool of reserves?
I'm not sure because they're doing everything in secret now because they don't want anybody's feelings hurt at teams, right?
Exactly. Well, I mean, you're already naming starters and reserves, so clearly you know where you stand in the pecking order.
I can relate to being the last pick, I'm all for this.
They were given I forgot the reason they were giving for why they were doing it, undercover blindly. But I mean, come on, guys with the egos.
They want to make it still seem special because if you're picked last, it seems like you're somehow less of an all-star. Exactly. When the whole point is everyone's supposedly an all-star, even though we know that's not exactly how it works. The thing that's surprising to me in all this, you just read all those long numbers. Steph Curry seeking his 5th All-Star appearance. This is just his 5th All-Star appearance, which I guess for most people would be a lot, but for a guy who is now perennially looked at as one of the best players in the NBA, it's crazy to think that this window has been much smaller than we think about.
And along those lines, the Warriors could become the first team in NBA history with 4 All-Stars in back-to-back seasons. That's amazing. They were the 8th team last year to have 4 from one team, but none of those other 7 had it the next year. They can do it and probably will do it. It's amazing.
You know who we should blame for all of this?
Who's that?
J.J. Redick.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, pretty much.
Blame him.
By the way, the people behind the glass were very confused when I put out that J.J. Redick tweet. They're like, what would he have to do with it? It was a joke. We're talking about, he said that afterwards, and they were all like, I don't understand what you're talking about. What's going on there?
Oh, my God.
Just push the buttons.
Yeah,
all right, Cliff, play the music.
Wow.
Do the social media.
Wow. Okay. Getting a little condescending.
We'll do the content. You guys do whatever it is. You guys do behind the glass.
Okay.
Ray is salty.
Man, I tell you what, you tell you from personal experience, you don't want to mess with the people that press the buttons, man.
No, it's fair.
That is not a crowd you want to
By the way,
fight.
you know who does mess with the people that do the buttons? J.J.
Redick.
Off the top.
And we continue with college football news. Former USC star and Pro Football Hall of Famer Ronnie Lott headlines a list of 6 people who've been appointed to the 13-member college football playoff selection committee.
Yep, so you have him. You have a former Arizona Republic sports columnist, Paula Bovin. Got to know her when I was actually out there living out there in Arizona. Oklahoma athletic director Joe Castiglione.
Great dude.
Former coach Ken Hatfield. Georgia Tech athletic director Todd Stansbury. Florida athletic director Scott Strickland. And Bovin, by the way, the second woman to be named on the committee following the 10-year former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. I've now set that as one of my goals. I want to be on that committee.
You want to be in the college football playoff committee?
Yeah,
I don't think you want that headache. I don't think you want that headache.
Kind of when I can be former ESPN, radio and TV host. I could be done. So I just go there once a week, eat the food, the catered in food, and have some fun with it.
I was really expecting you to say that your goal was to be the 3rd woman on the committee ever, and I was going to be very concerned as to how that was going to come about.
Why would I say that?
I don't know. You were setting it up that way.
Well, you were just talking about Paula. And
I was.
Yeah,
I was.
You led right into that. You said that actually is going to be my goal.
Went there, but I can understand the path that got you there.
Should I have said comma, new sentence?
Well, I mean, listen, you guys took, you guys raked me through the coals when I said my dad, Trey Wingo, without the comma in there. So I feel like that sort of verbal fonting is important in all of this. But to your point, I think it would actually fit really well for you in retirement. You love watching tape. When I was able to get you over on the Dragonfly app, it was the best Christmas present I ever gave you.
Unbelievable.
And it would really distract him from my mom, which is what this is really all about when it comes to you whenever you're put out to pasture, is making sure you've got enough entertainment to not bother her.
Let me just say, yes, you're right about that. Let me just say, because I'm a Netflix junkie, I would be great on this committee.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now.
How do you really feel?
In 3 years or so, I want to be on this committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. By the way, I feel like a point of parliamentary procedure. You said, looking at your son, should I have done comma, new sentence? Comma does not be
period.
It's a period. New sentence.
So. I said that kind of lightly afterward. You didn't hear it. I said period.
You was at fault.
It was
for
in
that?
there.
Who's that?
J.J.
Redick.
Yeah. By the way, we're not.
You've won the crowd behind the glass over now.
See, there you go.
Win the crowd. Win your freedom.
Sure if J.J. Redick's listening, he's like, "What are you picking on me?
What did
for?
I do?
What did I do? Nothing. It was just a tweet. I thought it was funny, and then they hated it, and then I had to make it funnier, and then we brought you back.
There you go.
That's sort of the way it went. Okay, that was off the top.
That was it.
That was it.
Show's over. Thanks.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. Have a great Thursday.
I feel like we actually worked there.
Oh, that was a lot of work. You know what else has been a lot of work?
What's that?
This season for LeBron James.
Yeah.
His team mired in a 4-game losing streak that has extended the Cavs' run to a 3-9 record since December 19th. LeBron James acknowledged that his 15th season, despite the amazing stats he has put up, has been one of his hardest. And let's listen in to hear what LeBron had to say about that.
It's been very challenging, just from the simple fact of how many guys it's been in and out. This is a difficult, year for our team. It seems like I say that every year, but this one has been even more challenging. With everybody that's been out and coming back in and the rotations and things of that nature has been very challenging on our team. But we have to figure it out. Listen, at the end of the day, we have a game every other day or every 2 days, just like everybody else in the NBA, and we have to go out and play.
Surprised to hear him say that?
Well, no, because he says something like this every year, and this year he's saying, well, this may be even more. As he even said, I know I say this every year, this is about that time that they have bad defense. Again, since Christmas, it's 28th in the league. The key to me is our offensive efficiency is 23rd. So they've really slipped there. Isaiah Thomas, and you have to give that time. There's no way you can say, when he hasn't had really, only a few games. He's got to get more games and more acclimated to this team. But, since Christmas, LeBron James on the plus-minus is minus 89, by far the worst of any Cavalier, and sixth worst in the NBA, over that time. But, again, we see this every year. I know they have issues. I know the issues seem even deeper, that the players are even concerned, hey, we need a little more help here as well. But it's just tough for me to say, this isn't going to be the year when you have LeBron James and when you get to the playoffs that they figure it out.
Well, the interesting thing for me is I saw that as far as games missed for the team by injury, I think they're 7th in the NBA right now. And so when you look at the things that LeBron's actually pointing out in this time, he's not really saying we need more for the first time. It seemed like that was always the cry in the past. It's just now we haven't been healthy, and we haven't been healthy at the same time, so you haven't been able to get into any rhythm with it. That's why I pointed out with Golden State, right now they're all healthy. They're also a team that's been together in their current form for a while now, so they're very used to the way they operate rotationally, and that's something that the Cavaliers haven't been able to have as a luxury, especially with IT, a guy who I heard Legs the other day say needs to be great in order for them to be good. Well, it's hard to do that when you've just come back mid-season from a pretty bad injury.
Well, look, this is sort of the second time this season they've had this what are we doing moment, right? They started out with a big win to begin the year against Boston, and then they went into a massive funk. Mm-hmm. Then they figured that out. They won 18 of 19, mostly against inferior competition. But it is interesting on some stretch because what LeBron is doing, it's for him – statistically, it's one of the best seasons he's ever had. 27 points, almost 9 assists per game, and he's basically very close to averaging a triple-double and playing 30-plus minutes a game, 36, almost 35, 36 minutes a game. But it proves that he knows that at the end of the day, this isn't about stats. It's about putting a team together that he thinks has a chance to make a run at Golden State. And really, there are probably 3 teams that we think may. Let's be honest. As you said, there's Golden State, then there's everybody else.
That's exactly right.
In the NBA. And that's just the way it is right now. Might that change? Could things happen toward the second half of the season that could shift our perspective of that? Yes. But there's really only 3 that I think people are really thinking have a shot. Cleveland.
Right.
Maybe Boston.
Maybe.
And maybe San Antonio.
And I think you have to put a maybe to Houston as well.
Okay.
Probably have to put a maybe to them. But they are maybes, that's for sure.
They are maybes.
But San Antonio is always going to be in that conversation because, again, of their consistency. But, boy, this may be the year we just kind of push them aside, though, right? With Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard now out indefinitely. You hate that word indefinitely.
Right, he's only played 9 games this year.
He had the quad coming into the season, so he didn't start the season. He's only played 9 games, and now he's out indefinitely. That's a horrible word as an athlete, because normally as an athlete you're used to, I got this injury, that means I'm out for this period of time. Normally that's what it means. When it's the out indefinitely, as Popovich said, he didn't re-injure it. He's just not out there doing what he can do, so they want to give him a break.
This feels Andrew Luck. This feels Andrew Luckian as far as, how undercovered it's been for a team that's been so good for a while now in such large part because of Kawhi, but also in how serious this should be. Again, to Trey's point, he's played 9 games this season. This is an injury that was coming in at the beginning of the year. The fact that it hasn't progressed in the way they want to should be sort of telling in what our response should be, and yet for some reason it's sort of guarded because there's so much content constantly in the NBA, and you could say in the NFL as well, for the case against Andrew Luck, but that's what this feels like to me.
It's just, look, to your point, he changed everything when he went out in the NBA Western Conference.
Oh, yeah.
They were blowing Golden State out. Then he got injured, and the series wasn't even close after that. If they're going to have any chance at having a shot at slowing down Golden State, they're going to need, as well as they played without him.
No, LaMarcus Aldridge has been playing great, 23 points a game on just under 9 rebounds a game. He's been doing well. But to your point, they got no shot without Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So if there's any question, then listen, how can you not be with him and say, sit him?
Yeah.
Sit him and get him healthy, because we ain't got a shot when it really matters if he's not on the court.
Just find a way where he can be good to go in April when the playoffs begin.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Golick Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Hey guys, is it time to get your hair in the game?
Time to claim your spot!
Then it's time to check in online at sportclips.com/check-in for a fresh cut, legendary hot steam towel and massaging shampoo.
Time to claim your spot!
So do your hair a favor by checking in online and arrive just in time for your Sport Clips MVP haircut experience while you surround yourself with sports on TV. Get in line online at sportclips.com/check-in.
Time to claim your spot!
Quick tennis note, because we were talking about Djokovic in the Sports Center update. You know, at Wimbledon every year, unless there's massive amounts of rain, the middle Sunday is an off day.
Right.
So nobody plays, and so we were over there the last couple of years, and I was walking around just going into the office from our apartment to get some stuff, and I'm walking in right by the security door, and I hear this person just sort of running, and I turn around, and Novak Djokovic is just running right by me, right down the streets of Wimbledon. In the streets, you know, not,
like running, like
jogging.
Workout running,
like
not
jogging.
running to get somewhere.
Like as close as you are to me right now. It's like, oh, hey, what's up, Joker? How we doing? I mean,
wow.
it's Wimbledon is very unique, you know, in that sense. Everybody stays right there in these little apartments around the facility and the complex of the All England Club. And there's Joker just running around. Good to see you. Hey, all right, have fun. Talk to you later.
Should have went with him. Jogged with him. You're a jogger.
Yeah, I think he would have taken me.
Probably.
I didn't like my chances. But I do like the chances, guys, of something to change that in college sports that I think should have changed a long time ago. Matt Chick, who works for us, you did the Belk Bowl with him?
Belk.
Put out these tweets, and he said, I heard you talking about this morning on my way in. I spoke with an NCAA official this week who was, air quotes now, 95% certain transfers will soon be allowed to play immediately in basketball and football. So in other words, we've always had this issue that if you wanted to play at the same level and you wanted to leave your school for whatever reason and go to another school, you had to sit out a year. And I've always thought that was patently unfair, especially when a coach can basically do whatever he wants and leave whatever he wants.
And we've seen it.
With no ramifications whatsoever. So to me, if the coach who's making money and getting paid should be allowed to do this, I have no problem, none, zero, zip, with players allowed to move should certain situations that brought them to that school change.
It's one of those things where, and also in this string of tweets, it hints that there would have to probably be a window of time for these transfers to take place to help better manage what would go on. There would likely be academic requirements attached to this.
Which I'm fine with, by the way.
Absolutely, especially because whether it's for football or basketball, and especially because it's going to be two very different animals the way it's applied to both. In basketball, where the one-and-done model is still very much a part of how they do business, and then in football, where graduate transfers have long been part of the equation, But this now opens it up in interesting ways. I've been surprised this morning at the amount of people that seem to be in favor of this, because in general it's something that creates more volatility for teams. And usually a lot of the fan pushback on this is the fact that they understand that this could negatively affect their team because it changes the system altogether.
Yeah, it does. And I don't imagine the people you heard that were for this were many coaches, because I can't imagine any coach that's going to be for this. So if we look at this, here's how it normally works. You go to a college, go to play football or basketball. If you want to transfer, you can. Then you go to that next school and you sit, unless you're a fifth-year player. Your brother, my son Jake, did that. Jake went as a graduate transfer and played at Cincinnati, where you don't have to sit.
Correct.
You do not have to wait. So technically, this is what you could do. You could literally play for 3 teams and never sit. You could go to a school. 2 years later, you could, if this happens, you could leave and go to another school and play immediately. And then when you're at that other school, you could graduate. And then if you have another year of eligibility, go to a graduate transfer to a third school and not have to sit at all. So technically, you go to, correct?
Yes.
You can go to 3 schools.
It would be a one-time freedom of transfer. It wouldn't be like you could do multiple.
Exactly. And that's the one thing about this. It's a one-time go. You can't play your freshman year somewhere, transfer and not have to sit, and then don't like the next place you're at and transfer again and not sit. It's not going to work that way. So why would the coaches be against this? I mean, listen, it would be a bit chaotic for the fact that you recruit a kid and you think you have a kid. Now what happens? In-season recruiting. Every player sitting on that bench may be getting recruited by another team. Again, not openly, because I'm sure that won't be legal. I don't know what the rules will be, but they'll be recruited. Hey, if you're not playing here or you don't like it here, come play for me, because now you can move freely. You'll see, I don't know if there'll be separate rules for coaches that are leaving like crazy and a player follows that coach. Would that be allowed without having to sit just to follow that coach? And for those that are saying the players shouldn't be allowed to do it, that's not right. They're on scholarship. Understand one thing. These scholarships are year to year.
Correct.
Now,
it's not a 4-year contract.
Now, you
some
can
of them
do
have
it.
changed to 4-year agreements.
Some have done it, because what you would see is a guy get a scholarship 2 years later, another coach comes in, and that player all of a sudden loses a scholarship, because scholarships are year to year. So what some schools are doing is now giving kids 4-year scholarships, so that can't happen to them. But for the most part, that's what they've been, year-to-year scholarships. So, man, if the kid has to go year to year and has the possibility of getting their scholarship taken away, why can't they leave and go somewhere else?
Junior, I want to ask you this question, because you went to Notre Dame. You were there for 5 years. The first 3 years, you didn't really play at all. You played, you started 6 games your 4th year, and then every game your 5th year. Had this been available to you because you weren't seeing the field, would that have been something you would have thought about?
Probably would have thought about it, but I don't think it's something I would have gone through. Even I had qualms about even considering the option of a graduate transfer, just because for me, I was sort of a unique case where Notre Dame meant something a little bit more to me. It was a place that was special in a lot of different ways, and
well, some other slappy went there before you.
Exactly. So. Now, listen, if I had gotten to my last year and I hadn't played at all, I mean, there was a difference because I was incentivized by finishing out the end of that season as the starter because of injury there. But no, I think I was a unique case, and where I would have been more likely to stay put. And that's what I always go back to with people, because to kind of where this question leads is on the other side, people just assume, well, kids are going to be wantonly transferring with no regard. It's not the MO of guys to want to move around this much.
Right.
I've seen kids that were, in a lot of senses, had this decision made for them by their parents where they would leave and transfer to other places. And it wasn't always something that the kids wanted. Guys want to be around. I mean, there's still the aspect of you're with guys you know. You're at a place that you chose for a reason. If the coach hasn't left, then there's still a lot of continuity around there that would mean you would want to stay. Yeah. We're talking about circumstances that dictate this.
Right.
Any system is going to get abused, but I think for the most part, you're going to have kids that want to do this because either the circumstances have grossly changed, coaches haven't lived up to what they've promised on one end of this, and they want to make sure that they give themselves the best chance in a limited window to appeal for jobs after college.
Or a coach changes as well. Nobody goes to a school, takes a scholarship to a school and says, oh, I can't wait to transfer. You're going there for a reason. So, Mike, I think you spelled it out perfectly of other reasons that you would go.
You did good, son.
And for those that will say, oh, these kids are afraid of competition now, work to try and be a starter. Listen, partially I understand that a little bit, but you have 4, maybe 5 years to do what you can do if you want to get a look at the next level. So you have to put yourself in a position to try and get looked at. So a lot of people, people that just say, oh, he didn't want to work, so he's going to run and go transfer somewhere else. Just like you said, Mike, circumstances can change. You need to make the most of your opportunity to try and get on the field, to try and get some tape to prove yourself.
And when we talk about circumstances changing, there are a couple things. One, what you think at 17 and what you think at 18, once you get there, might be completely different. And the other thing that always changes, well, to me, it's Willie Taggart is the symbol of this, okay? Willie Taggart, 2016, coach at South Florida. 2017, Oregon. This year, he's going to be at Florida State. Yep. I believe Willie Taggart's teams have qualified for 4 bowl games. He's coached them in one of them because he's left to find the next big thing. And good for him if he can do it.
Right.
I'm not in any way saying he shouldn't be able to do this. But if he's doing this and Willie Taggart is sitting, or any coach is sitting in that living room and saying, I'm going to take care of your son. I'm going to make sure that we develop him. And then he bails, and we can pretend they always go for the school, but they mostly go because they like the coach at the school.
Like the coach and the way the coach plays that can maybe help them out. Right.
And if that changes, absolutely that kid should have the freedom to say, wait a minute, this is not what I was promised, and it's not working out, so I want to be able to have the right to explore and see if there's a different option.
And I think that's a great point, Trey, is we entrust kids with this decision when they're 16 and 17 to choose this, but then we act like, well, these kids are irrational. They won't be able to make this decision at 18 or 19. Well, we just made them do that before, so that part's interesting. I'm interested where it goes unintended consequences-wise, because to your point, it's going to change the way, depending on when this window is. We just signed up for that early signing period in college football. So when this happens, how does that change the way coaches allocate scholarships? How does that affect kids on the team if all of a sudden you've got a guy that's eligible to transfer and you're 1 or 2 scholarships over? Is there negative blowback on guys that are already there because of that? So there are a lot of things, like any other system, you only learn once you get in it and see it play out. But you can already play out some scenarios where this could have certain negative side effects for some guys that are already in the places they are.
The big thing, like you said, is when would they do it differently for different times for football and basketball? Coaches are going to hate this.
Of course, because they want control,
instability of their roster.
And right now, they have the ability to say, "Oh yeah, tough. This guy's going to be here until you." I mean, they have all the control,
and you know what?
They want that.
You know what other control they have is? I don't want to be here anymore. Yeah, I'll go take that job, and I'll see you. I can go.
Exactly.
And again, they're right to do. They can do it. So I really don't have an issue with this.
I don't either, and we want to get your takes on us. Hit us up on this at Golic and Wingo on our Twitter feed. There's a lot more to get into, and we will get into this throughout the show here. But we'll also deal with, sometimes it's best to tell somebody how you feel when they're sitting right next to you, and we saw that play out in a very interesting way recently. Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Golic and Wingo with you as we continue here on this Thursday morning. Hashtag Penny Day, hashtag Buck Stanzik. And one of the topics that has come up is the idea that Matt Schick, who works with you, Junior, and does a lot of stuff in college sports with us, is putting out there that he believes he's hearing it's a 95% likelihood that eventually in both college basketball and college football, kids will be able to transfer without sitting out a year. And just a quick story, we talked about you and how long you had to wait to play at Notre Dame. My son played college football at a much smaller level. But when we were going through the recruiting process, we sat with the head coach of the school he eventually went to at Georgetown, and he told all of us, look, I'm from here. My kids are down the road here in school. I've got a dream job. It's what I love. I'm never going anywhere. Well, 11 games later, he left. And so he was gone. Now, I don't think Chappie would have changed schools anyway.
But still, the just what you're saying, that the idea that they can do that. Coaches can do that.
They can do that with no ramifications whatsoever. So it certainly seems that it's basic fairness, which seemed to be evading this entire situation for so long, that if situations like that happen, sure, a kid should be able to transfer without having an issue of sitting out.
Mike, what's the biggest tangled web you think you can get from this?
The biggest tangled web I think I could get from this is probably just the way it affects scholarship management for the guys that might be currently on a roster in these situations, because I think about what happens now between that period between early signing period and late signing period, when you've got to make all of these decisions where kids already know now in this new system, if you don't sign in that early period, you open yourself up to probably getting dropped in favor of a guy who might be a late switch before the later one. Now all of a sudden you've got to factor this into it. We already know guys get run off the team all the time when new coaches show up. If a new coach shows up and he's got his players following him, how does that affect the guys on the team if there are limited scholarship numbers, but this coach has a quarterback he really wants to bring on, and you're the third linebacker, all of a sudden you the odd man out in this situation?
Yeah, this is going to take a lot of thought and a lot of rules. One being, if a coach leaves, can that player follow him to the school if there's scholarship available? And if there isn't, does the new coach that goes there make there be a scholarship available? This you said it, I think, perfectly. The unintended consequences of things that may happen. How about this? How about if Josh Allen, some people think maybe the number one pick this year, what if he'd have left school this past year? He all of a sudden is getting talked about. What if he wanted to go to Michigan? What if Carson Wentz did it?
I mean, do you have an issue with that? I don't have an issue with that.
No, I don't. Yeah. But I'm saying as an issue with it, Wyoming or, these schools where they're playing for the, the lower division championships, and their top player all of a sudden grows into this star and starts getting talked about as one of the best players. And I'm not saying that they're all going to leave. I'm just mentioning those two guys. Those two players could just say, well, no, I'm not going. I'm staying here. This is where I've been. But potentially they could. And all of a sudden you could see a big player, from a lower level jump up to a bigger level when he's playing well. And fine for him. I'm just saying these are some of the things to think about.
Yeah, you essentially turn lower end Power 5 schools, Group of 5 schools, and FCS schools into feeders. If you play this system out to the full extent of it. And I remember the blowback that came on this, I forget his name, but the quarterback from Eastern Washington, it might have been, that ended up at Oregon a couple of years ago. He was a fifth-year grad transfer. Yep. And there was still blowback because, again, he had been successful at that particular program and now makes that jump because it's personally beneficial for him. Vernon Adams was the transfer from Eastern Washington, and so there was blowback there for essentially these same reasons, but at that point, you had the thing to fall back on. Well, he had already fulfilled his obligation, he had gotten his degree, all of these different things.
I guess the counter to what you had just brought up would be, well, look at Carson Wentz. I mean, he was the number 2 overall pick despite going to North Dakota State.
Oh, sure.
And Josh Allen, Wyoming has a fine football program, but it's never going to be considered Alabama or Ohio State or Oklahoma, and Josh Allen could be the number 1 player. So right. I don't think that's going to cause a lot of people to leave if they're having success.
I'm with you. I don't think we're all assuming this wild west mad dash by a ton of players, but it's going to get chaotic. So to me, if this happens, how the rules are set in place are going to be the real key things here.
And could coaches continue to block certain kids from going to certain schools? I mean, there's a lot of things that play out, and it may be messy, but you know what? Democracy is messy. We figured things out before, It's not unavoidable.
Are you for it, Mike?
Yes, I'm absolutely for it. I'm all for giving them more agency.
And that was the Straight Talk from Juniors. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, a former athlete said something to another former athlete's face, and it was interesting, as was the reaction to it. You'll hear from it. Plus, Tony Baselli will join us in the next hour. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick. Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.